What's up guys, we are back out here in the middle of nowhere at the St. Philomena Chapel. In the last video at this monastery, you saw me build this entire altar. And in today's video, I'm gonna be building out the platform in front of it, adding a unique Eucharist box on top, and some shelves to the side of that for candles, flowers, and statues. The first thing I need to do before I can get started is clean. Before I laid this flooring, I went ahead and laid this underlayment, which proved to be a bit of a difficult task. It didn't really like cooperating, but I did end up getting it down. All right, it's on there. It may not be perfect, but it's on there. Essentially, this platform is just a flooring job. I got two boxes of this 2 1/4 inch tongue and groove hard maple from Home Depot, and I used the entirety of both boxes. The rips of each board are pretty inconsistent, so I started with a long board and then just started pulling from the box, making sure that my seams didn't line up. And I just tagged a few nails straight into the top of these pieces to hold it all in place. Once I got to the end, I scribed it to match the cabinet and the wall and then started over from right to left. I got 5 rows done here. You can't really tell because the camera quality is poor because it's so dark in here because the sun's going down, but I've walked on it and it is very, very sturdy. I dig it. 10 out of 10 would not recommend this garbage maple from Home Depot. A lot of it is bowed, some of it is missing tongues, and some of the end cuts are just crooked. I am very annoyed, but I'm gonna follow through with the job because I've made it look good and, you know, I've already started, so. After that, I took it all the way up to the edge, knowing that I was gonna make my own trim board for the front piece. Well, here's where I'm gonna stop for the day. I'm gonna do a full board here that I tongue and groove myself. So this cap board is going in first. Throw this one on and then cut it to look a little bit nicer and then it'll be done. I ripped these maple boards to have a groove in them so that they match the tongue side of the flooring that I had already put in. I cut them oversized so that I can come in and take away as much material as needed to make that front look nice and flush. After that, the last touch on this platform was to put the front face piece on, and that was just another piece of maple cut to fit. To hide all my seams between the altar and the walls, I cut this maple trim. With my router, I added a little bit of a decorative detail to the top of it, which is gonna match the Eucharist box that I make here in a minute. I'm building this box out of alder to match the altar, and it's pretty basic construction for a box. I'm pocket holding the front face frame together, and then I stapled and glued it onto the 2 side pieces that I had made before. After that, for the bottom of the box, I took a 1/2 inch piece of plywood and pocket holed that in. And then for the top, I took another piece of solid alder, and then I just secured it to the box as well. After that, I used the router to cut a groove in the back of this box, and then embedded a piece of 1/4 inch into it. Flipped it over and thought, man, this looks kind of lame, bland, and like a birdhouse. So to try to improve the aesthetic a little bit, I cut myself some trim, took the router to it with a bullnose bit, and added a little bit of a decorative detail. I used that trim on the bottom of the box, stapled it in place, and then I took that router bit and ran it across the top of the box too to give it that same edge profile. After making the alder door for this box, I took it to my P2S laser, and because this box will store the Eucharist, aka the body and blood of Christ in the Catholic culture, I added an image to represent that on the front. After that, all that was left to do was to add the hardware, which just ended up being hinges and a nice little lock and key set. And then I was able to put it all in place. The last thing for this portion of the project was to add a couple of shelves to the side of the Eucharist box for statues, flowers, and candles. This section of the project took me a little bit longer because, well, we got a puppy, and she wanted to make absolute sure that I was distracted the entire time. To break up the monotony of alder, I'm using maple on these shelves because I've already got alder on the Eucharist box and the altar. And the floor is maple, so it'll match. I started cutting and pocket holing all of my pieces together to make up the body of the shelves. And because the walls do have an angle to them, I wanted to make sure that these shelves could follow that. So on one side, I cut about a 22.5 degree angle. I started stapling things together, and yes, at this point it does look like a set of stairs, but it will get better, I promise. Luckily, I wasn't distracted anymore because my coworker, who was building cabinets at the time, took the new pup off my hands. And for all of those who are curious, she is 8 weeks old. She was a Christmas present to my kiddos. Her name is Sugar, and she's a white female boxer. you'll definitely be seeing tons more of her in future videos. After building out the shelves, I took them out to the monastery, and they fit in perfectly. Because of the trim on the bottom of that Eucharist box, I didn't nudge them right up against it because I thought it would look kind of funny. And plus, I just like that there's a little bit of space in between them anyways. The last thing that I needed to do to finish the altar from last video is to add this laser engraved maple medallion to the front. It is a solid piece of maple with the monastery's crest on it. I cut it out on the bandsaw, took it to the router with a template on top of it, and cleaned up the edges nice and crispy. This will get screwed directly on the front of the altar, but I'm not going to do that yet because all of these things have to be clear coated and finished separately. Alright guys, that's going to do it for episode 2 here at the monastery chapel that we've been working on. The entire altar and platform is done. I think in episode 3, my wife and I are going to be tiling the entire floor. So, when all is said and done, this entire chapel will have been done by us. So that's cool. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. If you watched this video and thought to yourself, man, that was so good, how can I give this guy money to repay him? Then you're in luck. I have a lot of stuff listed on my Etsy store that you can buy to support the channel, so head on over to reformationwoodshop.etsy.com to grab something.